life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray.
Hey, Brenna, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, I posted something on Facebook last week, and then you had me kind of come through and finish watching, right? I'd never seen the Hocus Pocus,
Yep.
and my post was no real desire to, right? Doesn't seem appealing.
Yeah.
Um, and I got blasted, friendly, right? But still blasted for it. So we did watch it here over the weekend. Um, and it was actually worse than I expected. So for sure not a fan. But leads me to my question, Brenna. What is that movie, right? Whether it's a cult classic or an iconic or popular movie that you've never seen that you might get blasted for if people knew the truth?
There's probably a lot. Um, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Okay.
Yeah, would be one.
Now, why is that the one? Because I think for our generation, that's not a movie people are going to be like, oh, okay, well, you've never seen that? That's a shocker.
Because I feel like everyone's seen it. Like, it's just such a classic.
Okay. Oh.
But maybe not the same response that you got to Hocus Pocus.
I've also never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's, so
Okay.
we're in that together. So, um, all right, Brenna, let's talk about real estate. Our market has really hit a slowdown, right? It kind of felt like, hey, we're skydiving and we're falling. All of a sudden, that parachute, there we go, got deployed, and things really slowed down quick. We anticipated that, but I think we're seeing it more now. So, what are you hearing and seeing just on a big picture level from the conversations with your other agent partners?
Yeah, I think across the board, things are obviously slowing down. On the lending side, especially, I heard a stat earlier this week or last week from the president of our company that 90% of mortgages are sub 5%. So
What was that percentage again? One more time.
90.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was shocking to me. But there's been a ton of refinances over the last couple of years, obviously taking advantage of these historically low rates. And that's on a few different levels. That's really playing a part in what's happening in the market right now. Because we are up at around 7, depending on where you come in at. You can still get rates lower than 7, but we've definitely seen them as high as 7. So if you're sub 5, it's not quite as enticing to take on that higher interest rate. So that's one piece of a little bit of the stall out. And then just the decreased buying power with an increase in interest rates is the other piece of it. So I think especially in certain areas of the market where people lean heavily on financing, we're really seeing that, if numbers get tight, if your debt to income ratio is a little bit closer and some of those percentages jumps can make a big difference, then we're seeing more deals stall out a little bit, or people just have to lower their price point, readjust what they're thinking. However, grain of salt, we've been talking about this, big picture for over 2 years. We're just kind of flipping the switch now. It's slow, but it's really closer to 2018, 2019 production numbers. So that's kind of what I want to walk through. It is definitely different. It is definitely closer to a buyer's market. And even though it feels more like a buyer's market, the numbers would tell us that it's still a seller's market. But because there's been such a shift and such a slowdown, those buyers are definitely taking advantage of a little bit more negotiating power, inspection items. They have more houses to choose from. So I think it's pretty darn close to a balanced market as far as who holds the power right now. So that's kind of what I'm seeing and feeling from the people that I talk to. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, very much so. The numbers still look that way, and I think we're more in a buyer's market than probably the numbers look.
Yeah.
But the inventory levels still say we're in a seller's market, right? There's not as much inventory still as we look at an overall big picture where we're at with the market. So, you know, does that mean that buyers can come in and get a $50,000 price drop off the list price? Probably not in most situations, right? Depends on your price point. If you're looking at a $3 million home, that might be a negotiating point when we look at percentages. But we're seeing a lot more price reductions that we've seen in many years, right? Even before 2018, 2019. The challenge, I think, for most real estate agents and sellers is the way that we've priced properties has been, well, what recently sold. And the challenge with that, what recently sold is not as sustainable as people have been impacted by the interest rates.
Yeah.
Right. As interest rates went from, 6 to 7, that impacts what somebody can afford monthly, right? So we have to price ahead of it and take that into account as we're evaluating what the pricing is.
Well, and I think sellers got so used to being able to be hyper aggressive with my neighbor sold last month for 650, so I'm going to list for 700.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of appreciation is not healthy or sustainable. And if you were trying to buy in the last couple of years, you probably agree with me on that. But it's a huge shift in expectation as you're entering the market as a seller right now. It doesn't mean that you can't sell your home. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get a good price for your home. It's just different. Things Matt and I have talked about it. The good pictures, good staging, doing some of those updates that maybe you slipped through with in the last couple of years, not doing. Those are really making and breaking deals right now because we have over 7,000 active homes on the market, which is still, that can't be right. I think I said that wrong. Will you pull up the slides, Matt?
Yeah, you ready for the first to know stats or?
Yeah, first to know.
Yeah, here we go.
Let me jump to here. Active listings. Yeah, I was right. 7,100. It just seems so high because I haven't said that number in so many years. So 7,100 homes, active listings when we pulled this at the beginning of the month. To be that balanced market, and this is kind of what Matt and I were talking about. So the numbers would say to be a balanced market, we would need about 20,000 homes on the market. But I feel like that would really be a flat out buyer's market at this point if we had 20,000 homes on the market. So I think we're pretty darn close. But if you take a look here, that green number that's high on the graph, that's 2019. So that is the last quote unquote normal year where we saw a little bit more balance, a little bit more of the cyclical seasonality that we had seen in years past. So we're still below that, but we're up considerably from 2021, which is that red line. So, we're starting to even out a little bit. We had that big spike at the beginning of the summer of active inventory, and now, we'll probably table out and come down a little bit as we go into the second half of the year. But the big thing is sellers, sometimes they have their house on the market during a hike in interest rates, and literally right during when they're listed, their buyer pool shifts because now their buying power has shifted. And like I said, in some of those markets where every dollar makes a difference with your debt to income, the DTI, that can really make an impact. So, when you're entering the market on both sides, but especially as you're listing your home, whatever you thought a month ago or whatever, that's really not relevant. You need to look at what's happening this weekend. Is there talk of different things happening? I know we don't have a crystal ball. That'd be nice, but just really staying up with what's happening in the market and understanding it is pretty multifaceted right now, but the interest rates are really driving a lot of this, with just a kind of a different side of the coin of the affordability issue.
Yeah, it's things are moving rapidly. That's one thing we know, right? It's changing at such a rapid pace that what information we had a couple weeks ago is different. So we have to be agile and committed to evaluating the market and what it's doing right now, right? Staying stale and stagnant and saying, well, gosh, the neighbor sold at 650, we have to be able to sell at 650. Well, the market may not bring that. And that's a real conversation. That's a tough conversation. It's hard to be on both sides of it. Now, as a buyer, the interest rates are going up. And I think you're in such a fantastic position as a buyer right now because, one, you're able to jump into some properties, take a look at a couple, and be a little bit pickier than you've been able to be for the last couple of years, right? When there were 1,100 homes on the market at one point last year, and
this year in January, it was this year.
Yeah, right. So not even that long ago, right? Now we're looking at 7,200 homes. There's more to choose from. You can be a little pickier.
Yep.
Now the good news is, if you buy today or you go under contract today, you lock in your interest rate. If interest rates go up, it doesn't matter, right? You're already locked in. Next year, if they're up higher, you're fine, right? It's not like your interest rate is changing unless you're in a variable interest type loan. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's a different conversation for a different time. And if they go down, if the interest rates go down, you can most of the time take advantage of that by refinancing in that situation, right? Now, I say most of the time because what if scenarios, right? If the market really drops down, the value's not there, it's going to be harder to refinance, but you're still in a fantastic position as a home buyer because you get some leverage now. And a lot of sellers are offering credits to allow buyers to buy down their interest rate. Most common that I'm seeing is what's called a 2-1 buy down. It's 2 percentage points lower for the first year, and then it's 1 percentage point lower for the second year, with the hopes or the expectation or the potential that if interest rates are lower, I can refinance. If they're not, well, at least I know I'm locked in for the remaining 28 years, and I know what it is. And as long as I can afford to keep it, I think I'm in a pretty good spot.
And that's exactly, as long as I can afford to keep it. So I think that is the big thing right now. If you are in the middle of a job change or potentially having to sell your home in the next 1 or 2 years, then maybe you need to consider some different things as far as it's a good time to buy a home. The market is extremely volatile right now because of interest rates, or the interest rates are very volatile right now. But all signs point to things cooling down by this time, by spring next year, to where we're still pretty much on pace to have another great spring selling season. Interest rates come down a little bit more people enter the market, and then we have some higher prices and things like that. So, but again, not a crystal ball. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've been hearing. That's what I've been talking to people about, that, we're kind of in this lull with a little bit less competition, but don't anticipate that that's going to last forever. So if you can take advantage of it, if it makes sense, that's great. And even if home prices do come down a little bit, they almost always come up again. And, to that point, our average close price is still mid sevens at 744 as an average, which is up 8.5% year over year. So, we're still well above the line. We're going to see some fluctuation. We might even come down a little bit as we enter the last part of the year, which is not totally uncommon historically to drop a little bit. But if, I have a different graph. If you look at the high point of last year to the low point of this year, we're still net positive. So it's just kind of keeping that in mind. I know obviously everyone's situation is different, but I think anytime there's big changes, it just takes people a little bit of time to catch up. It's this pendulum. So we're having to readjust our mindset. For the sellers, you're going to have to readjust your game plan and your expectations, and maybe put in a little bit more work and elbow grease on the front end to be able to get the highest and best number for your home. Now, that has always been the case, that you're going to get more money for your home when you market it, when you do your pictures, when you stage it. But when we were seeing such a huge percentage above, you didn't notice the dollars and cents, whether that be 10 grand plus or minus, because you were so far over. Now you're going to start to feel that those are the homes that are sitting on the market, that either the sellers don't know that the market has changed, so they're still pricing pretty aggressively, or that the quality of the home is not at the level to where buyers are jumping to grab it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a thought here as we're talking. As you position your house on the market, I think you need to be outstanding in some area. And what I mean by that is, if you're pretty close in price, the house needs to be outstanding and stand apart, and needs to be very different, better in a good way, right? And if your condition's pretty similar, and we're looking at other competition, then your price might need to be outstanding, and outstanding in the it needs to be a little bit lower than everybody else, right? Position yourself to be able to compete into the realm that you're in. Now, the interesting thing, right, is we take a look at appreciation over the last couple of years. I heard Gary Keller made this reference, and he said with the market appreciation, the way things had gone, it's kind of like you went to Las Vegas, went to the casinos, and you went there with $100, and after sitting there at the blackjack table, and you're splitting tens and doubling down or whatever it is, you're up from $100 to $500 in a short window, right? In an hour or two. Well, you're having a lot of fun. You're not ready to walk away. And the next couple of hours, you're not on the same heat streak that you were on, and you're down, not from the 100, but you're down from the 500, you're down to 300. Well, you're still up 200 from where you started. It's just not at the peak of where it was, but you're still overall pretty positive in equity in that situation. And that's been our real estate market. For 2 years, we were on a just skyrocketing trend that we knew we weren't going to keep on that pace forever. Now, as it's come down, we're still, if we look at the line, the trajectory from 2014, 15, 16, right, as things continue to go up, we're still on a positive trend. It's just not the skyrocketing trend. It's come back down to be in line with where that graph should be.
Yeah, I can show you that. Will you pop over to the other slide deck?
Yeah, you're good there.
Okay. This is what Matt's talking about. So back to 2012, you go up, you go up, you go up. Then you see the last couple of years, that line or that rise has really increased. But if we were just to keep that rise the same level all the way through, we're still well above it. And even if we come down a little bit, if this is the normal line and we've been doing this, it comes back down, we're still in line with that normal trajectory. So yes, we did peak down a little bit. We're basically flat from August. We're up 0.63% for average sold price. But historically, like I mentioned, even the peak of last year, we're still just above it. So, there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of information. Any kind of change, especially a big one like this, can be very unsettling. But I just encourage you to kind of look at the numbers and take a step back, because it still is a great opportunity. It's just a different strategy right now.
Yeah, the game's changed a little bit. The strategy's changed, but it's still, for the most part, the rules are the same, right? Just how you navigate within that. You got to put in a little bit more work and more effort. I think the good news is some of the positive of this, the real estate agents who said, don't worry about anything with the house. We're just going to take photos with my cell phone. You don't have to clean it up. You don't have to do any of that. Who really gave bad advice are going to find this market more challenging, and are either going to up their game and are going to have to get onto a different level, or they're going to, go find other employment somewhere else. And I think that's probably a good thing on both sides, right? Either they up their game or they move on. Now that's clearly not going to be everybody, but it's just kind of my overall hope that kind of that's where some of that's going to go. And I think it's going to be an awakening for some of those agents who just got by doing halfway because they could.
Yeah. Will you pop back to the other slide deck? Okay, so we talked about average close price, active listings, pending listings here, and month supply of inventory. So pending listings are the under contracts. So we did see a little bit of a dip. With that, we had another hike in interest rates. So anytime that there's movement on the interest rate side, it's going to stall things out. We already talked about that. So that is where we saw that dip. Now, again, if you look at this green line, 2019, even the last 2 years, you can see in October, November, December, things do come down. That's just kind of normal how things go. Most of the time, if people do not have to buy or sell, they pull out of the market for the holidays. They kind of do a reset and they say, okay, I'm not going to have my house on the market for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, and we'll just reset in maybe January, February, March. Now, it's not a horrible time to sell necessarily because you're going to have really motivated buyers if they're still in the market. On the flip side of that, if you're a buyer, there's less competition, so you might have less less competition. So again, it's still a good market. It's just a little bit different, but it's not completely unforeseen to us. We've seen this before. Month supply of inventory under 2 months. So technically about half of what it would need to be balanced. But considering where we've been, like we mentioned, we're really kind of in more of a level playing field than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it's a comparison that we can make, right? When I say that, it's as humans, right? We're just bad at giving kind of estimations, but we're really good at comparing one to another, right? And when we compare this year to last year, it feels like, oh my God, nobody's buying. That this isn't what we're used to. It's so different. We've never seen this before.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is we've gone from a small dog to a medium-sized dog. We haven't even gotten into a big dog as it ends up with the shift, right? It's smaller changes. It just feels like a bigger shift because of where we were.
And speaking of that feeling, I think this is one that we are really feeling is this days in MLS or speed of the market. So we are up to 26 days on the market, which is up 44% month over month and 100% year over year. Now, again, that sounds really scary and really fast, and it is a big shift. But we were at like 11 days on the market, which means, and that's on the average. So for the median, that middle number, we were down to like 4 days, which is just lightning fast, which, buyers are having to go out during their lunch, take a look for 30 seconds and put an offer on. You want to have a little more time. You want to have a little time to take a look at a few different houses, maybe go on the weekend instead of, during the week, whatever makes sense for your life. Historically, this is pretty normal. So again, that green number 2019, that green line, we're still below that. But to Matt's point, it is a massive shift from what we saw last year. So it's just getting our body, getting everything comfortable to this new speed, much more sustainable at this speed, much more historically accurate with where we're used to seeing the numbers. But 100% up from this time last year, yeah, that feels really different.
Yeah, feels very different.
Yeah,
right? But it's not undoable, right? That we can navigate through these waters.
absolutely. Yep. Same thing with the close to list price. This time last year, or the peak of last year, or even the beginning of this year, we were up at like 107% of that close to list price, which again just is a little bit crazy and unsustainable. So we're down to 98%, almost 99%, which is again very much in line, pretty much on top of the 2019 number. So kind of back to normal. So making sure that your pricing strategy is within what's happening and not up in these blue and red lines. Also managing the expectation of, I've heard a few different stories of sellers getting full price offers and saying, nope, I'm waiting for the bidding war, or nope, I'm waiting for my offer, my $50,000 offer. Well, you're in the wrong market right now for the most part. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but that is becoming kind of the exception and not the rule. So, you don't want to miss out on a great full price offer on the first weekend if you're looking for something, if you're looking for kind of that unicorn. So, just stay tuned into what's happening. On the flip side of that, if you're a buyer, you probably don't need to go 20 grand above list price in most cases to get the deal done. The interesting part, I think I mentioned this last time, is where we're seeing kind of a little pop is in our ultra luxury market. So kind of above that $3 million mark, we're seeing quite a lot of activity, and some of those people, a larger percent of those people do not rely on financing, at least in the way that we do. So they're not as impacted by interest rates. So we're seeing a lot of pretty large sales happening, which is good for our economy. It means there's still money coming into Colorado.
Yeah, it's the market's good. It's healthy. Things are still moving. I love the fact that we're not at 158% of list price to sales price ratio anymore. It's a lot easier to navigate. The challenge for pricing and the listing side of it is just where to go with that based on where interest rates were, and where they're at today. But yeah, I've heard that too from some of my other real estate agent friends. Hey, we got a full price offer, or I wrote a full price offer, and the listing agent told us, hey, we're waiting for multiple offers and we're waiting for it to go over. And unless you're the exceptionally nice or exceptionally cheap, that's probably not going to happen. So, right, be in the market where the market's at now and understand that if you got full price, you got what you're asking for it, that's a good deal, right? We're not used to that in the market. Historically, that number's rarely been at 100% when we look at on the average. It's been over the last 2 years, right? But prior to that was not the norm.
Well, and keep in mind, your value of your home has been positively affected by the last 2 years. So you're still reaping some of that benefit. We just aren't having the continued rapid appreciation, which we've said is not sustainable. So we're getting back to a more sustainable level here. We don't know. There's talk potentially of a few more rate hikes. But talk to your lender partners. There's more than just the 30-year fixed out there. There's different things that you can do to get into a home and still make it a good decision. It's just a little bit different strategy than we've seen for the last couple of years.
Yep. Strategy's changing.
What else, Matt?
Well, this is the Brenna show, right? Brenna is the expert here as we look at reviewing the numbers that Land Title puts together for us. Again, I'm so appreciative because I hear frequently people ask, Matt, what's happening with the market? Is anybody buying? Is everything slowed down? What's going on? And it's a different market than we had. But what do the numbers say? The numbers say that people are still buying and selling real estate. So how do we get your house, if you're a seller, to be one of those? How do we position you to buy a property? And I think that's some real concern, right, for potential buyers. The interest rates have gone up. the values have gone up. So the overall cost for me as a homeowner to buy a home is expensive. And I was talking to a relatively newer agent recently who was really concerned about the interest rates and how things were going. And I said, look, here's my situation. I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you this. I would buy a home today at the interest rates where they're at today. If the interest rates were 10%, I'd still buy another home at that interest rate, whatever it is, right? Because the reasons why I would buy a home don't change based on the interest rates. They change based on my situation and what's going on, right? So, do I need more space? Have we outgrown the space that we're in? We've got two rambunctious boys. Well, one's very rambunctious. The other one's not yet crawling. So he'll get there. But they're going to want space to run around and play. And if I'm in a condo or I'm in a townhouse, that doesn't change, right? Like how we get there might change. If I'm an empty nester and I got into this big house because I had a big family and I needed a lot of space and now they're all gone, do I really want to upkeep? Do I really want that big house to clean and to maintain? If somebody's getting a divorce, if somebody's getting married, if somebody's having kids for the first time or whatever this situation is, those things don't really change. So I'd still buy a home, right? To bring this full circle, because it accomplishes what I need it to accomplish. Not because, oh gosh, the interest rates are up and I can't buy just because of the interest rates. I've said this before. I said it the last couple of years and I've said it on our conversations. It's never a good idea to get overextended. If you can't afford a $3,500 a month mortgage payment, don't get yourself into that situation.
Yeah.
Buy what you can afford or live within your means. I think it's never the wrong time to buy a good piece of property. And over time, property values are going to continue to go up. I think that's the one tried and true from the beginning of real estate here in the world, right? It costs more today to buy it than it did 25 years ago. I don't think that's going to change.
No, I don't think so
either. So any kind of final parting words on where the market's at, Brenna?
I think we just have to remember that we're all kind of on the same team, right? Like we're all trying to get to the closing table. We're trying to sell the home. We're trying to buy the home. And anytime that there's a shift in the market, the tensions kind of get a little higher. Anytime there's a shift in power. A couple years ago, the sellers got on a little bit chippy. Now the buyers maybe are getting a little bit chippy because they've been waiting for it. So I would just encourage you, if you're entering the market, to just be kind. That you're both trying, you both want the same goal. You both want to close on this home. So things are shifting, but we still ultimately, the desire to buy and sell real estate is the same. Yeah,
without a doubt. I love that. So, as we wrap up, Brenna, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Did you hear about the surgeon who enjoyed performing quick surgeries on insects?
What?
He does them on the fly.
Put him.
So gotta love a good corny dad joke. Appreciate that one that I came across today. Anyway, the market is evolving, is changing. Brenna and I are going to bring you the stats, bring you the data, bring you the information to look at so that you can make an informed decision as to how best to proceed. If you want to buy a house, I think there's a great opportunity to buy the house. If you want to sell a house, need to sell a house, I still think there's great opportunity because the market appreciation over the last couple of years has been great. You may not have hit the peak, but you're still walking out, from $100 at Vegas to $300. I think that's a successful trip to Vegas.
Still a win.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, again, thank you everybody for watching. Brenna, thank you for joining me on this. Thank you to the brain powers at Land Title for putting the information together for us to review and geek out on.
Yes. Well, thank you. I can't believe we're almost halfway through October and see you in November.
Yeah. Here we go. Happy Halloween. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks again.
Bye.